Okay, so today I'm going to give you some advice that I would give to someone if they needed to learn the English language from scratch. This can apply and be helpful and useful no matter what your level of English currently is. All the way from the absolute beginner level up to the C2 level where you're fully proficient in English. All of these tips will still apply no matter where you are in your English learning journey. Now, the first tip that I would give is make sure that you are applying your skills from day one, no matter where you are in your English learning journey, at the very beginning or halfway through it. Always make sure that you're applying your skills, especially applying your speaking skills and especially applying your writing, typing, and texting skills. Because unfortunately, these are neglected by most people who are learning the English language. In school and formal education, they put a strong emphasis on grammar, vocabulary, reading, and writing. But unfortunately, your listening and your speaking are limited. In formal education, they do not drill your listening skills and your speaking skills nearly enough for you to see a difference and actually become fluent in the English language. The amount of practice it truly takes to be able to become fluent when it comes to listening and speaking in the English language is not nearly practiced enough in formal education. So make sure that you do not neglect any of the skills that you need from the very beginning of your English learning journey. Even if you're currently at the intermediate level or the advanced level, this is still an important reminder to not forget to put an emphasis on practicing these skills. This leads me to tip number 2, which is focus more on the basics as opposed to advanced aspects of the English language. Most people in the world will be using basic English when they speak English. So try not to learn rarely used English vocabulary words, phrases, and terminology that isn't even going to be understood by most people around the world who speak in the English language. When it comes to vocabulary and grammar, I would just know the basics and I would know them really, really well. If there are some advanced terms that are extremely relevant to maybe your industry that you work in or some part of your lifestyle, then that's okay. But when it comes to communicating universally with English speakers around the world, I would make sure that I have a really profound understanding of the basics in the English language. The basics can mean things such as knowing the difference between the future, the present, and the past when using verbs to articulate yourself. It could mean understanding the most commonly used words and expressions in the English language, things among this nature. It could even mean understanding the most commonly used slang terms in today's day and age, as opposed to slang terms that may be outdated or not used by most people. And for the third tip, it would be to create a real, legitimate strategy. Now, a lot of people like to get started learning English or any language without a real plan. They may hop on an application such as Duolingo, do it 15 to 30 minutes a day, and try to become fluent, but they don't have a real strategy. They don't have a real actionable plan to reach their goals. The best way that you can create a real strategy to achieve your goals when it comes to learning English is to simply consult someone who has successfully become fluent in English from your native language. There is no better case study than someone like that to show you what they did to successfully become fluent in the English language. And yes, it's true that different people tend to learn in different ways. However, they can still give you some advice that is definitely going to apply in some shape or form to your strategy. Another thing you can do is simply consult a native English-speaking English tutor who practices and teaches people English on a daily basis. Good English tutors who also speak English as their native language have helped hundreds, if not thousands of people become fluent in English, and they'll probably be able to find a way to help you achieve that as well. Which leads me to the fourth tip, which is leverage proven tools, resources, and methods. Examples of proven methods would be things such as spaced repetition, which is simply just referring to putting an emphasis on practicing vocabulary words that you're less familiar with, as opposed to practicing vocabulary words that you are more familiar with. Another proven method would be the shadowing technique, which has been proven to work even before the advent of modern day technology. When it comes to other tools and resources that are proven, you should simply look for reviews to see if English Tutor or an English course or any other application or resource is credible. Simply do your research and validate if it is legitimate. Unfortunately, all of the resources out there are not legitimate, so make sure that there is proof of concept before you try something new. The worst thing that you can do is try to do everything by yourself, which leads me to the fifth tip, which is get feedback consistently. You do not necessarily need to pay an English tutor to get feedback. You can still get feedback from other native English speakers using language exchange apps, which can be completely free in most cases. There are plenty of language groups on social media, and there are language exchange applications such as HelloTalk, which is a free one, that can really help you get feedback from native speakers. The feedback from free platforms may not be as professional as the feedback that you would get from a real English teacher or a real English tutor. However, nonetheless, some feedback is still definitely better than no feedback. As mentioned before, the worst thing that you can do is try to do everything by yourself. Never try to reinvent the wheel and make up new methods that have never been proven before. That's just you guessing. What would be a much wiser decision would be to use methods that have worked for most people who tried to learn English in the past, especially English learners who also share the same native language as you do. Now, to recap, the first tip is apply your skills from day one, especially speaking. Tip number 2 is focus more on the basic elements of the English language as opposed to the advanced elements of the English language. Tip number 3, create a real strategy and try to create the strategy with someone who has already achieved what you are trying to achieve. Tip number 4, leverage proven tools, resources, and methods to learn English. Do not try to reinvent the wheel or try to make up and try new things by yourself. Use things that have been proven to work in the past for most people. And tip number 5, get feedback consistently, whether this is professionally through an English tutor or teacher, or whether this is informally through other native English speakers on the internet or other social media platforms. So this is the advice that I would give to someone who needs to learn English from scratch, but this still applies no matter what your level of English is. What is your current level of English? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.